I now give the floor to His Excellency Abdullatif bin Rashid Alzayani, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bahrain.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the Merciful, the Compassionate, Your Excellency, Mr. Kasaba Koroshi, President of the 77th Session of the General Assembly, Your Majesties, Highnesses, Excellencies, Heads of Delegations, may the peace of God be upon you. It is with pleasure, Mr. President, that I congratulate you and your country on your election as the President of the General Assembly in its current session, and I wish you success in managing its work. I would also like to express thanks and appreciation to the former President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Shahid, for his efforts in leading the previous session competently and professionally. May I also express the Kingdom of Bahrain's appreciation and support to His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, for his distinguished efforts in reinforcing the international role of this organization and its contributions to preserving international peace and security, the protection of human rights, coordination of humanitarian relief operations, and support for the Sustainable Development Goals, climate action, and environmental protection. The general debate of the current session is taking place amidst armed conflicts in most parts of the world and shared economic challenges of great importance and danger, which, if left unresolved, along with the increased threat of terrorist organizations in various parts of the world that have not been comprehensively addressed, would lead to wider conflict with greater destruction, killing, misery, human deprivation, displacement of innocents, whilst threatening the lives of those living in peace, especially women and children, preventing individuals and societies from realizing their most basic rights to a dignified and stable life. These threats impose the inevitability of international partnership and joint coordination at the bilateral and multilateral levels to end wars and conflicts and to resolve them through dialogue and peaceful means, as well as constructive cooperation between great powers to achieve international peace and security, combat extremism and terrorism from its financial, organizational, and ideological foundations, and address any political, economic, or social problems that may fuel conflicts, disputes, or hatred. My country believes that the only way to resolve the existing regional and international crises is through adherence to the principles of the United Nations, including, most importantly, respect for sovereignty and international law, non-interference in the internal affairs of countries, achieving consensus on more effective mechanisms in order to avoid future conflicts, and resolving disputes before they break out, ending the heavy loss of lives and properties, with the channeling of financial resources to lift millions of people out of hunger, poverty, and illness, instead of wasting wealth on igniting hostility and hatred. In order for us to avoid or prevent future conflicts, we must do everything in our power to resolve disputes or disagreements before they turn violent. To do so, we must believe in the key role of promoting the values of tolerance, coexistence, mutual respect, and dialogue, in preventing the outbreak of conflict and preserving security, whilst building cooperation and confidence between countries. The United Nations remains a key element in supporting dialogue and peaceful coexistence among cultures and civilizations, reinforcing human solidarity in addressing the problems of poverty and hunger, allocating more resources to assist the least developed countries and the most disadvantaged groups, and encouraging scientific research and exchanging experiences in preserving the environment and treating diseases and pandemics. Mr. President, the security and stability of the Middle East region is a fundamental pillar of international peace and security. With this vital and strategic region facing wars and crises that have caused enormous human and economic losses, displaced millions, threatened navigation, trade, energy, water and food security, and deprived millions of the young people of the region of hope and optimism for a better and more prosperous future. Under the leadership of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Kingdom of Bahrain, in all its diplomatic positions and effective international responses, has always stressed the need for international cooperation and partnership on the basis of brotherly relations, understanding, and principles of good neighborliness, respect for the sovereignty of countries, and non-interference in their internal affairs, giving priority to dialogue and diplomatic solutions in settling regional and international conflicts and tensions, as well as consolidating peaceful coexistence among all religions, civilizations, and cultures based on the Charter of the United Nations and the principles of international law. The Kingdom of Bahrain has prioritized strengthening integration and interdependence between the countries of the Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Gulf and their people, and building on the achievements made in following up the outcomes of the Al-Ula Summit, while fulfilling the requirements for economic unity and joint development programs, as well as defense and security systems, in a way that enhances the security and unity of the GCC countries and its effective regional and international role. The Kingdom of Bahrain is also keen to preserve the security, stability, unity, and territorial integrity of Arab countries, which is an integral part of our national security. And we have confidence in the ability of brotherly countries to resolve their crises and overcome any differences through political dialogue. The Kingdom believes that achieving a just and comprehensive peace in the Middle East region depends primarily on settling the Palestinian-Israeli conflict in accordance with the two-state solution, resolutions of the international legitimacy, and the Arab Peace Initiative. Based on these established principles and values, the Kingdom of Bahrain has taken serious initiatives by hosting the Peace to Prosperity workshop, signing the Abraham Accords and the Declaration Supporting Peace, which has entered its third year, embodying the importance of cooperation instead of confrontation and conflict, and working to build trust and partnerships in order to meet the aspirations of people for security, peaceful coexistence, prosperity, and sustainable development. In this regard, the Kingdom of Bahrain welcomes the existing truce in Yemen with the support and sponsorship of the United Nations, in line with the initiative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and its efforts to reach a comprehensive and sustainable political solution to the Yemeni crisis, in accordance with the Gulf Initiative and its executive mechanism, the outcomes of the Comprehensive National Dialogue and Security Council Resolution 2216, reaffirming the importance of opening all humanitarian corridors and enhancing economic and development support for the Yemeni people. We also affirm our support to the legitimate historical rights of the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Republic of Sudan to the waters of the Nile River and for the protection of their water security, while supporting their endeavors to reach a binding legal agreement on filling and operating the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in a way that benefits all parties in accordance with the rules of international law. We renew our firm stance and solidarity with the Kingdom of Morocco in preserving its security and territorial integrity, and we value Security Council Resolution 2602 of 2021 on the Moroccan Sahara. The Kingdom of Bahrain affirms its interest in establishing friendly and balanced relations with all the countries in the Middle East, including the Islamic Republic of Iran, in compliance with the United Nations Charter and international law, the principles of good neighborliness and non-interference in the affairs of other countries, with respect to international law and the sovereignty of states and their religious and cultural values, and refraining from the use or threat of force, calling upon Iran to fully cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency and to work to make the Middle East, including the Arabian Gulf, a zone free of weapons of mass destruction. Mr. President, the Kingdom of Bahrain, under the wise leadership of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, with the direction of the government under His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, has been able to turn challenges into opportunities and success stories, thanks to the teamwork characterized by its responsibility and united spirit, placing at the forefront of its priorities respect for human rights, dignity, freedoms, welfare, and security, which is the real wealth of the country and the focus of the comprehensive development process and its purpose. Team Bahrain presented a pioneering and civilized model in overcoming the repercussions of COVID-19 pandemic, as the Kingdom provided free health services and examinations to all citizens and residents without discrimination, granting nearly 3.5 million doses of vaccines, representing more than 230% of the total population, 67% of whom have received the booster dose. This is in addition to the launch of a financial and economic package since March 2020 worth $12 billion, equivalent to a third of the gross domestic product, to support the most affected individuals and sectors, and to reduce the economic and social repercussions, leading the Kingdom deservedly being placed first in the world in the recovery rate according to the international indicators, with Manama becoming the first health city in the Middle East according to the World Health Organization. In order to further enhance its development process, the Kingdom of Bahrain has continued to implement an integrated plan for economic recovery that included the completion of an advanced national program for employment and training of citizens, updating legislation and commercial procedures to attract foreign direct investment, launching major strategic development projects, modernizing infrastructure, establishing new investment and industrial zones, and developing oil and non-oil economic sectors, along with the shift to the fourth industrial revolution, with support for the digital economy and artificial intelligence technologies, tourism, logistics, and financial sectors, as well as promoting programs for financial sustainability, economic stability, and fiscal balance. The Kingdom of Bahrain is also keen to follow up on its commitments to achieve the SDGs and looks forward to presenting its second voluntary report on the implementation of the SDGs next year. out of its awareness of the interdependence between the environment, natural resources, and human food and water security, the Kingdom of Bahrain has affirmed its support for the 4 major international initiatives in the field of climate change and its commitment to achieving net zero by 2060, reducing emissions by 30% by 2035, doubling green spaces, and enhancing the effective use of energy and renewable energy sources. My country stresses the importance of strengthening international cooperation in protecting the environment and addressing climate change in a sustainable and equitable manner, while ensuring energy security, expressing its support for the Green Saudi Arabia and Green Middle East initiatives, and wishes the Brotherly Arab Republic of Egypt success in hosting and chairing the Conference of the Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP27, next November in Sharm el-Sheikh. My country will soon witness a new blossoming chapter in its democratic path, with the 6th round of parliamentary and municipal elections this November, so that the Parliament continues to enact its legislative and oversight powers, whilst expressing the true will of the electorate within the framework of the coordination between the Shura and Representative Councils, where the fully elected Council of Representatives provides all Bahrainis the opportunity to participate, while the Shura Council will ensure the inclusion of different groups, including minorities from all parts of society. The Kingdom of Bahrain is proud of having modern legislations compatible with its accession to 7 of the 9 major human rights instruments, which match the highest international human rights standards, the most prominent of which is the Alternative Sanctions and Measures Law, which has benefited more than 4,200 convicts since its implementation in May 2018. As well as its current approach towards open prisons in line with modern criminal justice systems, and the adoption of the law on restorative justice for children and the protection of children from ill treatment, in addition to other legislation that support human rights in a society based on freedom, equality, justice, security, and social solidarity. In order to enhance its human rights and developmental gains, my government has this year approved the National Human Rights Plan 2022-2026, which includes 102 projects prepared in cooperation with the Office of the United Nations Resident Coordinator and in consultation with the representatives of the legislative, executive, and judicial authorities, national human rights institutions, and UN organizations, which is currently being implemented through an approach of dialogue, interaction, transparency, and community partnership as firm principles in line with the reform approach of His Majesty the King and the Economic Vision 2030 and its principles based on sustainability, fairness, and competitiveness. The Kingdom of Bahrain, under the leadership of His Majesty the King and the support of His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister, is continuing its reform and diplomatic approach that supports international partnership in consolidating the values of peace, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence, rejecting extremism, hatred, and terrorism, promoting and protecting human rights, and supporting sustainable development and service to humanity. Calling on the permanent members of the UN Security Council to de-escalate and to work on resolving disputes through dialogue and diplomatic means. It also calls on all countries to reaffirm their commitment to the values of tolerance, coexistence, mutual respect, and dialogue, and to intensify their work together to confront and overcome all challenges for the good and happiness of all humanity and for their rights to build a better future in which safety, peace, and tranquility prevail. I wish you, Mr. President, success in your presidency of the current session of the General Assembly and in strengthening constructive cooperation between member states in partnership with the United Nations and its main bodies and agencies in order to face the current challenges, as well as taking joint action for the sake of a world that enjoys security and peace and which is filled with growth and prosperity. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bahrain.